Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another one of devCodeCamp's alumni spotlights. My name, of course, is Carl Peterson, devCodeCamp social media producer, and we have yet another exciting episode for you that we cannot wait for you to hear. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it and get that first question knocked out to give you that insight and knowledge of this student's journey. So, what is your name and when did you start devCodeCamp?
Hi, everybody. My name is Devin Johnson. I'm a U.S. Army veteran, and I started devCodeCamp in March and just graduated in June.
Awesome. And what do you currently do for work?
I have just recently accepted an offer as an applications development associate with Accenture.
That's super exciting. Congratulations, first off. Secondly, thank you for your service. I know you mentioned that at the start, and that's something that I knew as well as your background. So, congratulations and thank you. We're going to be diving a little bit into the boot camp, obviously, but it's been a pretty exciting couple months for you. Now that you're kind of on the other side of the boot camp and accepting an offer, how you feeling?
I feel really good. I'm excited for one. It hasn't been a long journey at all. We blinked and all of a sudden we were graduating. Like I remember talking to Carrie for like 2 seconds and she was asking me, she was like, "Well, what are your thoughts on enrolling?" I was like, "Enroll me immediately." And all of a sudden now I am creating full stack applications. I just recently did my portfolio as well, just something, a side project that I decided to do. And it was simple working with React and working with JS and just try to like kind of learn more things. I did not know that there was such thing as an email JS and started working with that too. So it's funny how you go from not knowing anything, because I was one of the people who did not know anything. I did like a small Coursera course and that was about it on Python, and to being where I am now is uh, it, it's literally mind blowing. And then, like, of course, going into the job industry and just trying to search for jobs and trying to figure out where your knowledge base is and actually acknowledging where your knowledge base is. And then finally hearing that yes. And it's like, yes, great.
Yeah, sure. Everything you said, I've heard multiple times in some format. Like the blink of an eye is definitely something. It's kind of like a roller coaster, right? And then all of a sudden
Yeah,
you you're like, okay, I guess I'm a developer now, and okay, I guess I'm starting a job now, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, all right, yeah. So
exactly.
well, that's super cool that you're definitely growing and growing and always learning and learning, it sounds like. And again, that's something also we're touch on too. But I think naturally we should just start at the start, which is what originally made you enroll in Dev Code Camp or pursue coding in general.
I was working for a consulting firm at the time, and I worked with their digital component as an executive assistant. And mind you, I'm an executive assistant making $50,000 a year. It's great. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is awesome. It's a great salary. But it was hectic, like completely hectic all the time. And I had worked with one of the developers on the team, and they mentioned, because I was really interested in what he was doing and what, like these items that they were using. They were going through AWS, they were going through cloud computing, they were going through Salesforce, they were going through all these things, and I was like, what are these things? So he was like, he just sent me a link and was just like, try this out and see how you feel about it. So I started and I like was halfway done with my Coursera course for Python. And it's Python for everybody. I think everybody kind of like goes to that course. But I started to like it, and I started to like the ability to like code and see what I was actually doing. And you think coding, you think movies, they got the screen with the cybersecurity nonsense on it and whatnot. You think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be like a super spot. But I had heard about a program called Vet Tech, and it was transitioning veterans from whatever position that they were in to cross train with something else. And that was on the list. And software engineering happened to be on the list. So I went to searching Google to find, schools that dealt with vet tech at the time. And there were only two, and one had just stopped using vet tech. So I get on the phone with Carrie, talk to her about Dev Code Camp. She had all the information listed. She was amazing. Actually, I forgot the first guy's name that I talked to, but he had just started. and he kind of like sold me on it in the first place. And then I got on the phone with Carrie, and in that moment, it was just a reflection of I have to bet on myself in this moment. It's like, do I want to sit here and continue doing calendars? Do I want to sit here and continue talking to consultants, trying to figure out, trying to let them know that some things aren't possible, but they're looking at you like, why can't that be possible? I own an Amex. Like, like do I want to keep doing that? And I was like, no, I don't. I'm going to bet on myself. And I've always been a person to kind of like bet on myself, to just say, you know what, I'm going to drop this and I'm going to go for what I want to do. And in that moment, I was scared, of course, frightened. Bills are due. We're in a pandemic. Inflation exists. But like, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do the vet tech program. I'm going to do devCodeCamp, and I'm gonna put my all into it. And from day one, I think the first person that we talked to was JJ and Nevin, and I knew I was where I belong. Devin's a nerd, which I love, like massively. We actually had like matching shirts one day of the same anime, and JJ is a huge Star Wars nerd, so we were like. The moment that we knew that it was like a laid back environment where we could be us, I think everybody kind of felt the same thing. That was like we're where we belong. It's like the introduction of Dev Code Camp really shows you, hey, we know your people, we know your background, we are your people. Because one, veterans exist within Dev Code Camp as administration, as teachers, and it was cool to feel like we belonged. And I think that's where my want for to stay with Dev Code Camp and actually stay with the course was because I could speak my language with everyone, which was fantastic.
Yeah, that's super exciting. Yeah, people think automatically like schooling and think of just kind of like boring reading notes. That's not what it is at all. We definitely lean into everybody having their own personality and definitely being a part of the culture of a developer because everyone is a developer. So that's a really exciting journey and a really great answer. Thank you for walking me through that.
For sure.
Was it what you originally thought it was going to be going in? I mean, I know you mentioned a little bit like, you know, uh what you just mentioned, like, the teachers and stuff, but overall, was it what you were thinking?
Not at all, honestly. I thought I would be looking at a bunch of videos all the time, and that's about it because that's what my mind says boot camp, accelerated program. I'm teaching myself. But there was always like hands-on help. There was always me jumping in with either Haskell or JJ or Nevin or somebody and them walking me through it. Sometimes, like, especially me not knowing anything when I came in, I had a lot of questions. I'm a question person. And they know, like, I'm always say, I got a quick question. And that was kind of a running joke. So for a while. But like to have them jump in right away and be like, what can I help you with? What have you researched? And it helped me with my problem solving skills, having that ability to have someone to ask me, hey, what did you research already? And then we'll go from there. And I think a lot of people think that in boot camps, like it's you're all for yourself. That's it. Like you're all on your own. You're not going to get any assistance. Like you're going to get like maybe a quick, chat or whatever. No, they're jumping in, and that made this experience so much better for not only me but my classmates as well, because there were times when we're sitting there looking at each other like, I don't know what's going on. We have like 18 bugs and we have no idea what's happening, and somebody jumps in right away, and that was not what I expected whatsoever.
Sure, sure. And just a note, we have two different kinds of classes. So we have immersive, which is what you took, which is like the live, and then we also have flex, which is kind of the video thing. But for the immersive, definitely that's a big perk having that live. And also kind of what you mentioned too. I'm personally not a developer. I dabble, but I'm very far from the instructor's kind of mentality and their knowledge. But sometimes I'm in meetings and it sounds like they're speaking a different language. So I know I can relate to that big time every day. What advice would you give to students, current DevCodeCamp students that we're watching right now? Is there any piece of advice you'd give to them?
Listen, uh a lot of times it can be hard to it can be easy, actually, let me rephrase that. It can be easy to complain. It can be easy to find holes in everything, but like a lot of the instructors say the same thing. There's the reason why it is structured the way it's structured and it might seem hard at first, and then one day it's just going to click. And you're not going to know when it clicks. Honestly, I think it had to be like my capstone project where everything just kind of clicked. But it's going to, and you just got to be patient and actually be attentive. If you're not attentive, you're not going to go anywhere in this boot camp at all. You're not going to make it. You're going to fail. It's going to happen. But if you're attentive and you're interactive and you actually take time, even in your own time, sometimes just to look over stuff and just kind of like map through all the steps that are needed to be taken one by one instead of trying to tackle a big chunk of them. They tell you that too. You will succeed like 100%. I graduated with a great GPA. I and I knew nothing, but I followed the map out. I followed the outline that said, "Hey, take it one step at a time. Listen, be attentive in class, and just practice, 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 practice." And if you find yourself doubting yourself, which everybody does, no, everybody does it. Everybody doubts themselves. There is no, I have imposter syndrome now, even getting ready to start my career field. And like the one thing that they tell you too is that they don't expect you to know everything. Then nobody does. And even in your job, they're not going to expect you to know anything. Like just research and listen.
That's super good advice. Yeah. You mentioned the capstone project in that answer too. What was your capstone project on?
My capstone project was a location finder. I have a son who has autism, and I have a daughter as well. And when they were younger, it was really hard to find child friendly locations in any given area. We'd go on vacation, and it was really hard to kind of like find places. And to have a child who is on the autism spectrum as well, to have those issues and need certain accommodations, it was hard to find that. So for the last few years, I've been saying that there needed to be an app, and I think there's only one website that does this. So I created that app. You're able to go in and locate different facilities in the area, restaurants, theme parks, all kinds of stuff, and they're all child friendly, and they will let you know. It'll let you know inside that they have the accommodation of changing rooms, or they have the accommodation of a quiet room for autistic children. They have an accommodation of like safety or high chairs or something on the lines of that, because there's not enough like information out there for that. Even if you Google's just adding in, honestly, Google's just adding in that feature um to their platform, and I'm just now seeing it pop up for a couple of different places.
Wow, you were the trendsetter for Google, it sounds like then. That's what I'm hearing. No, that sounds like a really phenomenal project. Seriously, that definitely is the glorifying thing of coding, right? Like if you think of an idea that's not a thing yet, you can just make it. It's cool.
Yeah,
What was
it
your
was so fun.
yeah, what was your feelings going into the capstone project sprint?
Actually, I had a plethora of feelings. I was excited to start, of course, but in the midst of starting, my stepfather died. So I was dealing with not only my capstone trying to get it done, but that I literally installed the same API like 10 times, which is just an additional little feature that you can add into your program. And I installed that like 4 to 6 times, not even realizing it. And but I guess that made me a little more nervous because my timeline wasn't fitting with what was going on in life. But of course, I had the support of the instructors, and they gave me, the ability to just say, breathe. We know we got what you got going on. It's okay. And then finally, when I got to actually developing it fully, I felt accomplished because going through all of that, I had to bring my mom down. It was like a whole thing, and accomplishing all that, and then looking at the product that I created and looking at it as this is something that can be useful that I created, not someone else, not a bot, not automation, not any of that. I coded every single line in this thing, and my fingers hurt, but I've got carpal tunnel now. But it was a moment to where I could like because you know how you shoot a basket and you're like, oh yeah, if you miss, you're like, oh, I'm bummed. But once you finally make it into that basket, you're like, yes. And that is kind of how I had it, especially when I did my presentation and they were like, passing score. I was excited, and it just helped me like fuel that fire to create more things. Like even my portfolio, I have a lot of different things going on in there, floating navigation bar, all kinds of stuff, and it just allowed me not to feel limited in my ability any longer.
Wow. Yeah, that's a heck of a journey. But definitely leans into the always be learning mentality that seems that you carry with you. So that's a positive. And also it sounds like you slam dunked it. So that's cool too. And then obviously the exciting thing about after the capstone project is graduation. You mentioned that a little bit. What were your feelings like? And again, I know you touched a little bit on it, but what was your feelings like? Was it a breath of fresh air? Was it weight off your shoulders, or was it just kind of like, what's next?
Pretty much. What's next? I'm a what's next type person. I'm always like, as you said, like I'm a lifetime learner, and I'm like, what's my next move? That was my biggest thing. I was relieved, and I celebrated for like an hour, danced around my room a little bit, or danced around my office, and was like, yeah, let's go, I did it, yay, and kind of shot the messages out, telling mom, telling my dad, telling everybody I passed and whatnot. And then my mind went from where do I want to work? And it's like where do I want to work? And that strategy portion of me, my brain that go, I'm a type A personality. I used to be law enforcement too, so I'm a type A personality. And my next thing was like, where do I want to work? So I started typing in names of companies that I wanted to work for, and I just kind of like sat that as my goal list. Like everybody has like a goal board. That was my goal list on my computer, and I just kind of sat there for a second, looked at it, and was like, I'm gonna work at one of these companies. That's literally how my mind frame went from celebration to what's the game plan next.
Well, I'm glad you gave yourself an hour
Yeah.
at the very least. That's great. All right, let's talk about coding a little. So what is your favorite aspect of being a developer?
My favorite aspect of being a developer is always learning. There's not anything within development that you're gonna master ever. I've talked to people who have been in the game for 22 plus years, 30 years. My interviewer had been in software for 25 years and actually worked on stuff like when IBM was first starting out and whatnot, and when Salesforce started starting out. And it's so interesting to hear them say, just so you know, you'll never know everything, and that's okay. And it's like people are going to think you know everything, but you don't. And to learn the differences between technology is really cool as well, and how they can collide. Like how you can collide development in cloud computing, or you can collide development and security, or something along the lines of that. People don't realize that there's a really fine line between developing and IT, and you can actually do both. And there's always like this ability to kind of like transform and inform people of like how like all the technologies that are coming out and how to use them. And developing in general allows you to be creative. I'm a creative individual. I go a mile a minute. You can tell how I'm talking. And I like to be able to create new things. So there's never a dull moment in development for me, because the next day I can create something new. The next day I can create something new. Or I'm working on something for 5 days, and then after that I can create something brand new, totally different, and I'm never bored.
Yeah, for sure. I hear that. I say this time and time again. I'm sorry for this interview, saying the same thing multiple times, but I that is something I hear as well. People become developers to break that monotony, and
Yeah.
with coding, you never know what's coming up next, and you might think and then you get in the middle of it, and it's like, yeah, this might be a little bit longer than I thought, but that's fun, right?
Yeah.
It's a constant bob and weave of getting to your goal. So someone like you with that type A personality, perfect for a developer. And we definitely saw that through the boot camp as well. So sometimes people will meditate. Sometimes people will make sure they sleep a super long time. They do a lot of things leading up to like long sessions of coding. And even though like some coding sessions that are super long are not planned ahead of time. Those
Mhm.
ones that might take a little longer, do you do anything special to kind of prepare for them?
I meditate myself. I'm a big meditation person. I meditate twice a day, and I take that time to just breathe. JJ says it best. He's like, if you got anxiety about anything, just breathe, breathe again, take a walk, and then breathe again. And I had to like kind of do that, but I like listening to music. So I listen to I have Spotify. So I listen to lo-fi beats on Spotify, and I just like kind of zone out for a minute before I get started and just kind of like get myself centered to where I know exactly what I'm doing and I know what I need to do first. I think that's the huge portion. People look at the blank screen and they're like, what do I do first? Once you figure out what you're doing first, you kind of type it out a little bit, whether it be a class or, you're doing an Axios call or whatever it is that you're doing, or async function or whatever. It's just knowing that little first piece. Like, okay, I know what I need here. I need an async function. Gotcha. I know what comes after that. I know what comes after that. And you just piece by piece it. But you've got to be in a calm state in order to do that, to be honest.
That's also really good advice, Devin. Yeah. So you recently said on LinkedIn, I'm going to quote you here if that's okay. Development is not like riding a bike. You've got to keep practicing, learning, and growing. I was curious, what are some ways you personally hold yourself accountable to keep that growth going as a developer?
I think one, I keep up with trends. Most, as of course you've been on my LinkedIn, I'm one of the people who are listed as like kind of a LinkedIn influencer or whatever. I don't know how because I don't have that many people on there, but whatever. I just got the email, but it's I on LinkedIn they have where you can see all these new developments that are coming up, and I have a real big interest in extended reality and VR, and I wanted to know how coding comes into play with that. And so I set out for myself as a little reminder. I have it on my phone, I have it on my computer to just research at least one thing a day. And then I code one thing a day. And I will play a coding game. So on my phone, I have like a couple of different coding games that I can work with from my phone, or or I'll study something on Udemy or something on the lines of that, something where I'm getting my hands in code. And I think that is a huge thing that people need to do, especially after boot camp, because they like sometimes they wait too long or they get caught up in a job or whatever. But code at least one time a day for at least an hour, maybe 30 minutes, hour, whatever you can do. I'm a mom of two. I don't have a lot of time on my hands, but I try to at least add some additions to a previous project or, create a new project or play a game or something like that at least once a day. And I think that's what keeps my coding skills fresh. I realized somebody ended up telling me that quote in all actuality. Somebody told it to me and it just stuck. And they were like, it's not like, remember, this is not like ride a bike. Like you gotta keep doing it. Otherwise you will lose it. And it stuck with me and I just decided to keep that notification on. Hey, code something today, push something up to GitHub, do something. Even if you don't push it up to GitHub, do something to keep those coding skills fresh and in the frontal lobe, like all the time.
Yeah, technology changes every single day. If you don't have your chops up to date, you're gonna fall behind very quick. So that's super cool that you're on top of that. Speaking of LinkedIn, you mentioned that you got the email that you're a LinkedIn influencer. You post a lot of insight on there. Your numbers are consistently high, just for personal things you post or share. Um, when it comes to LinkedIn in today's world and a good landing place for developers as well, how important do you think it is? The platform in general, but more importantly, or more specifically, people coming out of coding boot camps looking for jobs.
I say it's super important. I was one of the students that even Lauren said I probably wouldn't need career services because of the fact that I had already established myself on LinkedIn. My previous job recommended everybody have a LinkedIn, and I started getting on there and just posting stuff. And at first, I was just like just a watcher. honestly. But when I started the coding journey, I started actually posting things and people were interested in it. It was like cool. But at the same time, recruiters were reaching out to me. I had majority of my job opportunities or my interview opportunities that I've had during this process came from LinkedIn. They did not come from me applying. I didn't actually apply to anything. The position that I ended up taking, I applied for, but LinkedIn actually got me the position. Like a connection through LinkedIn and that networking field actually got me the position. Someone was able to say, "Hey, I work in this area. I can help." And that's how we navigated that. Because my application, it was on the shelf somewhere. I don't know where it was, but but it was like literally under consideration, and that was it. Like it was just kind of sitting there. And even like I had an interview with AWS that came from LinkedIn. Someone saw my post, ended up reaching out to me saying, "Hey, I'm an AWS recruiter for the military. I'd like to talk to you about an opportunity." That was my very first interview was with Amazon. Like not many people get that opportunity. I got it from a post on LinkedIn, just sharing my journey. And now I was about to graduate and I was doing a project. And then that individual actually came into devCodeCamp to speak with the rest of us. So like I mentioned my coding boot camp and how we're all basically all military. And she was able to come in and talk to a couple other people and they were able to see the opportunity there. But if you're not interacting on LinkedIn, it's not going to help. So interacting, posting, doing all those things helps out a lot because it increases your network, especially in this time right now where people are doing layoffs and all of the kind of stuff. Networking is your like cream of the crop thing that you've got to do. And I know a lot of people, especially military, don't like social media, but literally social media is our like place now. Even if you look on TikTok, there are TikTok LinkedIn gurus on there who are teaching you how to do LinkedIn, how to structure your LinkedIn page, how to create content for it and how it helps. And given that, a lot of these people are recruiters. So when you hear them talking on TikTok about how your LinkedIn should be, they're recruiters. So when you connect with them, they then maybe have a software engineering position available or a software development position open or a junior developer position open that you have no idea about, but now you do because you connect it with them. And it can be like a huge help. Like I think I had about 9 positions listed on my devCodeCamp little platform, and I got rejected by three, three, due to a coding assessment. Big whoop. Get ready for that, guys. Coding assessments are fun, but but uh, none of them I applied for. All of them were strictly from LinkedIn.
That's incredibly impressive. I knew your answer was going to be similar. I didn't know the whole backstory of your journey, especially during the job search. But yeah, definitely a crucial tool that people need to lean into, and that's really impressive. That not only was your first interview with Amazon, that's not a lot of people can say that, but also you didn't apply for anything. That's such a subtle flex that you
A
should
little bit, a
definitely,
little bit.
yeah, no, you should be definitely proud of that. That I know no one that can say that. So that's a big congratulations. It's been
Thank
really
you.
cool.
I mean, of course, you've gotta apply afterwards so you can be in the system. But like, in order to get the opportunity, it was so crazy to sit there and look at it and be like, man, I have Uber on here, I have Amazon, I have Accenture, I have all of these places listed that I have Booth Allen, all these places that I've listed that I've actually like been able to like apply to, but not apply to at the same time.
Sure. Yeah, that's awesome. Devin, our time is up already. But I have one last question. I always end these with the same one, and it's if somebody was watching or listening to this right now, really interested in pursuing coding or becoming a Dev Code Camp student, what would you say to them?
Go for it. I mean, it can be. I know economy is crazy. I am not the richest person in the world. I'm not. But when I tell you I dropped everything and decided to just bet on myself, I really did. And it was tough. There were a lot of people. We had a lot of conversations about us. Money's tight, all kinds of stuff. We had a guy in our class who was working at night, doing class in the daytime. But if you see yourself in a different space, there's no point in suffering in the same place that you are in. You've got to move forward and you've got to go because the opportunity is there. It's literally quite literally a guarantee, not a guarantee, but a strong possibility that you're going to have a job within the 6 months after graduation. Don't doubt it. Half my class already has positions. So, like, as long as you're in it to win it and you put your all into it, don't second guess, don't do any of that. Just put your all into it and do it. It's going to turn out great. It might not look like it, but it will.
Devin, you're really truly an inspiration, and thank you again so much for making some time with us today to do this. It's been really cool watching your journey throughout the boot camp. Obviously, I'm not an instructor, so I didn't interact with you anything daily. But I was watching your journey on LinkedIn, and as well as a lot of people, as you know, and it's very inspiring. And I am so excited, and everyone at devCodeCamp is so excited. That's not even the right word. We're just it's like so much more than excited. We are absolutely thrilled for you.
Thank
And
you.
it's very deserving, truly. So
Thank you.
I and everybody here are super excited to watch you change the world. And I said excited about 10 times, but it's the truth. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your insight, your journey, and everything else with this. And I really appreciate your time.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me. Like
Yeah.
I had a blast. As you can tell, we ran out of time.
No, it was fantastic. It was really good. And everybody watching or listening, thank you so much for once again tuning in or checking this out. We really appreciate you. My name once again is Carl Peterson. I hope everybody has a good day out there. Devin, thank you again.
Thank you. Bye,
Bye bye.
everybody.